Hey, folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name's Jason Robertson, and I'm here with my partner in crime.
Back in studio, Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. Jason, I am so happy to be back. I'm finally feeling better, back from the vacations here, and we get to talk about things right here in Minnesota. We got to talk about Somalis. We got to talk about Trump's response to the Somalis. I want to talk about paid family leave, but Minnesota seems to be the epicenter of communism, race communism. Let's get into it, Jason.
And I got to say, as we get rolling too, shout out K-Gun Girl. First chat as always. And then we also got Francis in there. We got Mark in there. We got everybody in there over on the Rumble. Mine's loading kind of weird. And I got to say, folks, as we get started, we're streaming on the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitter X, and the Rumble as we get going. And then after about an hour, we cut off and just go Rumble only in Twitter. That's where the action happens. Because even some of the stuff we want to talk about today, even though it's becoming mainstream, Facebook, YouTube doesn't really like it. But as we get going, I got a huge ask. First, give us a like on the show. Hit the thumbs up button, whatever platform you're on. Second, comment, let us know where you're watching. And third, hit the share button. Help show get reach. We're going to talk about media narratives. We're going to talk about the Somalis. And one favorite, Todd, can I ask everybody for another favor? Do you think that's fair?
We're going to ask as many as we can. Whether or not they abide by it, Jason, that's up to them at this point.
All right, guys, do me a favor in the chat. I want everybody to type, send them home. Send them home. You can just do it once. But I'm sitting here as I'm watching all this news. I'm seeing these things that we've observed in Minnesota and across the nation. And all I can think is I just want Donald Trump to send them home.
Yeah, Jason, I think everyone has to understand here that the Constitution has zero remedy for what we are encountering right now. 100,000 Somalis in Minnesota alone. Let's just zoom in on that topic. There is nothing in the Constitution that was designed to necessarily prevent or react to this. And so Donald Trump needs to take any measure possible. And if that includes denaturalization, if that includes going into everyone's home, citizen or otherwise, and saying you don't belong here anymore, I don't care what it looks like. As the comments are all saying, send them home. There's Facebook popping. And Jason, my challenge for us today was getting over like 100 views on Facebook, given the title, the nature, and then what we're going to say as this program progresses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Look at this.
You guys are, I'm like the Grinch, and you're filling my heart with joy. You're making my heart grow. Send them home. Send them home. That needs to be the new locker up chant for whoever's running for president in 2028. Send them home. And here's the thing. And Todd, I'm going to tell the story you were telling right before the show prep. Todd was talking. Well, I'll let you tell the story about you were at the Christmas. That was so funny.
Oh, yeah, my Thanksgiving story. So last Friday I was gone. When you're married and have kids and separate families, it's like, well, the holidays turn in from one day to like an entire week of get-togethers here. So last Friday I'm with my family. My family is small, so it's just my aunt and uncle, my brother's, my dad's sister and her husband here, trying to keep my small family together. She's far left. She caucused for Obama down in Iowa years ago. She will vote Democrat until her dying breath, and then she'll still vote Democrat probably when one way or another. And she's out there, and she's like, Todd, I understand you do a podcast with your business. How is your business going? And my dad has to jump in immediately when she says the word Todd and podcast. And he says, now, just so you understand, he doesn't believe everything he says. He's just saying this to rile up an audience and carve out a niche online. And I have to, shout across the table like, stop, Dad, I believe in everything that I'm saying here. Might be hard to understand. There are a lot of, love Dad, just a lot of folks out there with normie views about we need to go back to like McCain politics because John McCain was so nice and he worked across the aisle here. And you can't say anything mean about the Somalis, even though when you point out the fact that they come from just one of the worst countries on the planet, their average IQ is below retardation levels here. Trump is normalizing the word retarded again, by the way. I got some great tweets on that as we go down that path here. Tim Walz is crying about being called a retard. But no, Todd doesn't believe in everything he says. And I'm like, Dad, you don't know half of what I believe because Facebook censors us. Like, if you think I'm out of bounds here, just wait till you go to the Rumble only. You will then understand what I truly believe. Bottom line, folks, they all need to go home by whatever means possible. They've all committed fraud by being here. And white liberals like my aunt, God love them. They're great human beings if they didn't get a chance to vote. Otherwise, they'd be great family members and friends. but they simply can't grasp what their voting means. It feels good to welcome in immigrants. I'm a good person. We're a country of immigrants. This all makes sense. I'm not sharing this pod. I will send her the link today here, so she can listen to what I really believe, Jason.
Oh my gosh. Hey, you can tell her, hey, yeah, we started a chant on the podcast with the audience. Send them home. Oh, Wayne had it right. Send them home after they empty their pockets. All right. Now, to start, we like to say one of the phrases we use in the podcast, share this content sometimes with people you might not politically agree with. And as an olive branch, it's the holiday season. We were going to start with just a little reality check for all of us. Fair-minded people, put them on a train to China. I love that. Our audience is on fire today. But we're going to start, and Todd and I were doing this little experiment for the show too. We're going to pull up CNN, and we're going to show you what your Aunt Judy that votes Democrat and argues with you at Christmas dinner, what she sees. And why? I mean, you're almost arguing with a flat earther when you're arguing with some of these folks. And it's kind of astounding. So we were going to talk about Somali fraud. We have a clip of Ilhan where Jake Tapper mentions it. But Todd, if you pull up the search bar, and so this is CNN live website right now, and if you just do a search for Somali, you will see there's what, Todd, I'll let you go through the.
Well, so it's already, I mean, CNN is fake news. It's worse than that. So I typed in Somali in their little search feature to find every article with the word Somali in it. I only got 28 results, Jason. It seems to me like the American Tribune could pump out 28 articles today on all the various ways that Somalis have defrauded the American taxpayer, how Tim Walz has enabled this to happen, how we have Ilhan Omar in Congress, how Barack Obama allowed them all to come here, how they've ruined communities. 28 articles would not be a problem. CNN only has 28 total here in the entire search feature. And if you look at the headlines, this is what Jason wanted to highlight. Ask yourself, do you think CNN's going to cover the billions of dollars in fraud committed by Somali crime rings here, whether it is through fake autism diagnoses, whether it is through defrauding the American taxpayer with their housing programs, whether it was your Feed Your Family scandal that Tim Walz and Keith Ellison knew about, making up 125. They billed the state of Minnesota for 125 million fraudulent meals during the pandemic. When every kid deserved a free lunch, Minnesota loves to give free breakfast, lunch, and dinner every student, every child in Minnesota here. Whether it's their negative contributions to the tax system, how they take more than they give in. They could have written about any of that. But instead, Jason, here are some headlines. My children are not garbage. Somali Americans respond to Trump attacks. Anxiety grips Minneapolis' Somali community as immigration agents zero in on the Twin Cities. Minneapolis mayor responds to Trump calling him a fool for supporting immigrants. That's neither clever nor is it right. Representative Omar responds to Trump's attacks. He's trying to deflect from his failures. After years of Trump's attacks on Somalis in Minnesota, ICE zeroes in on the Twin Cities. Here's what's fueling the operation. And I'll stop here after one more here. St. Paul mayor, Trump going after Somali Americans is astoundingly un-American. Ah, news to me, Jason. Saving America is un-American.
And let's put this in perspective, folks. There are projected, the real number's probably higher, 86,000 Somali in Minnesota. In the last 3-4 years, they have defrauded Minnesota taxpayers of $1 billion. $1 billion is what's come out. They've had 3 or 4 major frauds. One fraud, they said they were feeding people during COVID, and after they weren't. They weren't even providing meals. They didn't even buy the food. Another one was they were claiming they had doctors in the community say their kid's autistic, so they got extra money, and then they gave the doctor a kickback, another $250 million. They had housing fraud. They had all that. And actually, just to hop into the chat too, Todd, we're doing this real time on the Freedom from the Press podcast. So Wayne is talking about, Wayne over on the Facebook, and Timmy too, do a search for Tim Walz. Tim Walz was, a year ago? He was the vice president candidate for America, right? Tim Walz, national figure. You would think CNN is going to have tons of stuff about Tim Walz, how he didn't prosecute people, any of those things. None of this.
Jason, it is worse Look at this. I searched Tim Walz. The top hit is Senator Kane on Pete Hegseth. We got a Pete Hegseth representative. We got a Walmart CEO, Limp Bizkit. Oh, we finally made it to Tim Walz here. And he's asked if this moment you're planning for 2028, you're going to get rolled by the people in the streets. There is not a single mention of anything related to the Somali fraud in Minnesota by Tim Walz. They barely have stories on Tim Walz.
Right. Yeah. Now maybe go up and do like Minnesota fraud. Let's just see. We're doing this real time. Let us know in the comments too if you think there's anything else we could search for. Huh.
I do see that. Oh man, we didn't even have the clip of the Minneapolis police chief who is standing there with his Somali brothers and sisters, but U.S. citizens are scared ICE will target them. Honestly, Jason, I hope that's true. I hope U.S. citizens, paper Americans like the Somali refugees, who are not illegal by definition, but who are no more American than the illegals are. They are Americans maybe on paper only here. I want them to be scared. I want every Somali in Minnesota in the United States to wonder, will I be sent home?
Send them home. Send them home. Send them home. And I got to say, though, the reason we went down this little mini rabbit hole, I hope you guys found it enlightening. You are going to be going to these family functions like Todd did. You're going to be going to these different events with people that are liberals. I don't know about you, but you always got to watch, like, what are you going to say? Are you going to engage in a conversation? When you are talking to these folks, you are arguing essentially with flat earthers is the way to think of them. Like, these guys have not been exposed that the earth is round. They are still thinking the earth is flat. That is them. When you bring up Somali fraud, they have no idea what you're talking about. They have not seen a report. They don't know it's been $1 billion. They don't know it's been $1 billion. They don't know any of that. So I just encourage you, have a little grace with them. It's not worth arguing in some cases. Say, hey, let me share this podcast with these two yahoos that cover the news, talk about fake news, which, Trump launched that fake news site too. I don't know if you saw that.
The Hall of Shame.
Oh, yeah, the Hall of Shame is phenomenal. But so you're arguing with people that have no idea any of this happened. So proceed with caution and whatnot, and it like your life will be much happier.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further, Jason. You're arguing with the mind of a child here. Liberals that are allowed to vote might have grown-up bodies, but they have literal minds of children. They don't ask themselves, like, what is the outcome of me voting this way? What's the outcome of the beliefs that I hold? What does this produce when we put it into practice in the real world? They stop it. How does this make me feel? Am I a good person because I support immigrants? That sounds nice. Jason, you're a horrible human being because you don't support immigrants, but I'm a good person because I do. That's as far as they take it. They only react to their emotions and their feelings. They don't think through rationally or logically. Gosh, if we have 100,000 of these people here that won't fit in, don't want to fit in, can't fit in, well, that's not I can't think about that. They can't comprehend thinking about that. But you're a bad person for not wanting immigrants. I'm a good person for wanting immigrants. And that's where they stop.
It is so frustrating, but it was funny because I was looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, these people just don't know. Hey, can you pull up that tweet too we were talking about the 500,000 just to show you some of just the insanity that you'll get. So KSTP, this story, it's now up to like 10 million views. Everybody's quote tweeting it. They put out an article that was supposed to be defending the Somali community. And they said Somali Minnesotans generate 500 million in income annually and pay 67 million in state and local taxes. Now, your Democrat friends see that and go, see, we told you they contribute. We told you they're a net positive. This is great. KSTP, and if you read the article, they actually were like framing this like this is a good thing. Todd, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, a normal human being would ask themselves, all right, well, 500 million sounds like a lot. 67 million in taxes. Okay, that sounds like a lot. But then you wonder, what is the net of their presence here? So if they contribute that, what are they taking out? And already on the top, we know that they're taking out billions of dollars in fraudulent cases whether it is through the food, the Medicare, the housing programs, just receiving benefits in general. So that sounds like a lot of money. And then, Jason, I pulled up this tweet from Matt Walsh, who quote tweeted the KSTP disaster of an article. And he says this: there are around 80,000 Somalis in Minnesota. If they contribute $67 million in state and local taxes, that means they each pay an average about $800 or so. To put that in perspective, the average Minnesotan pays anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 in state and local taxes, which means Somalis are contributing more than 10 times less, to say nothing about the billions of dollars in fraud. The media is trying to make the point that Somalians contribute to the economy, but instead they're proving the exact opposite.
It's funny, and you get in, I don't know about you guys, but you get in these arguments with the Democrats all the time where they like throw out a number and they think like, oh, this number is really, really impressive. And then you actually like apply basic math to them. And I want to take a little credit too, because I had replied, I made a little chart and I had replied to Matt Walsh. And so the Somali population in Minnesota on the books is 86,000. The average number of Minnesota residents is like 5.7 million. If you break that down, the average Somali, according to the math they produce, the average Somali citizen makes $5,800 a year. So let's round it to 6,000. The average Minnesotan makes $68,000 a year. And now you're including people that aren't working. But so if you see a Somali family in Minnesota, husband, wife, and their 3 kids driving an expensive SUV, you take 6,000 times the 5 of them. That family produces $30,000 in income. That's net income, not even, or that's total income. That's gross income, not net. That's not after taxes. It is insane. And for those of you that live in Minnesota and you think like, I know people, friends, family, people in my friend group who make like 40, 50 grand a year. They can't afford a house. They can't afford cars. They're driving. We call them hoopties in Minnesota. Like it's the rusty old car that you got. And these Somali families are living in nice houses, sometimes really nice houses. They're driving SUVs. They have relatively expensive things. And you go to yourself, holy cow, we bring in these Somalis, and that family of 5 generates $30,000 of income, which should put them living in a leaky trailer house in a trailer park like I grew up in, driving piece of crap cars, not living in nice cars, going to the store, buying nice things, driving luxury SUVs. Blows me away.
All right, Jason, we got to get to it. Steve is over on the Facebook saying that we are full of it. Now, this is standard for your Democrat troll over on Facebook here. They listen to a program that lays out the facts here. Here's what the Somali population has contributed to Minnesota. Here's what they have taken out of Minnesota. They won't answer the question, why do they deserve to be here? Why ought they be here in the United States? By what moral obligation does the United States have to house Somalis from halfway around the world here? They'll never address any of that. I think deep down, Steve knows that Somalis don't deserve to be here, should not be here, should all be sent home. I think you believe that, Steve. You know it deep in your heart. Steve, I guarantee, does not live in a neighborhood surrounded by Somalis. Maybe he doesn't make enough money to contribute taxes to the state that get redistributed to the immigrant Somali population here. But Steve is a better person than the rest of us, Jason, our audience. He says we're full of it because we're calling out the problem.
Yeah, and what's funny, Steve is exactly the guy we were talking about, that it's not worth, and Steve, thank you for tuning in. We love having people that politically disagree with us. Hopefully we can enlighten you with some facts. These are all facts. These are reported numbers. We're just doing the math. But Steve's the guy at your Christmas party that's probably not worth arguing, because he's going to call you a racist or sexist or bigot, homophobe. You might even be a climate denier. I don't know what you're going to be with Steve. And you're going to say, but Steve, they themselves are saying they contribute 500 million. And that breaks down to like a family of 5 contributes 30,000, which means they should be way below the poverty line. They're not contributing. They're a net drain on society. Steve's just going to call you an ist. He's going to unfriend you on Facebook. He's going to tell your mom on you. He might call your boss, even though he has no facts, because Steve thinks he is intellectually and morally superior to you. I'm telling you, folks, don't argue with these people at your Christmases. Just enjoy your Christmas.
And I have a new approach. I get a little fired up on the podcast, Jason, but when you meet me in real life, I'm the guy that just asks questions to these idiots so they can explain their own worldview. And you would think that after a while they'd be answering these questions, and in their head they're like, well, that doesn't make sense because I just said something contradictory, or no, actually, I don't believe that here. They never connect the dots. You can ask them questions all day long about defending their beliefs, because I don't play defense anymore. I go on offense when I have these conversations. I don't have to defend anything that I believe in. Everything I believe in is morally justified and right. These people believe in evil, so I want you to explain why it is that you believe in such evil. But they just don't get it. Nothing ever clicks for them. So Steve is going to walk away from the program. He'd walk away from a conversation thinking like, well, that Todd is a troll. He's a loser. He's stupid. He voted for Donald Trump. And then he'll never put his money where his mouth is. As I tell the story about my sister-in-law all the time. She wants every Somali in Somalia to be brought over to Minnesota still, but she moves out to the cushy suburbs. She teaches in her nice little rural white Minnesota district. She'll never deal with the problems that she votes for because they don't actually believe in it at the end of the day. And I told you too, Jason, how she was trying to shelter some taxes, doing some estate planning. And this is the gal that would tell me every single day, I don't pay enough of taxes. And when I tell her about writing off a vehicle, she's like, how dare you? You're hiding your money from the government. Get out of
here. Now, Todd, I got to say, too, just to frame up, because a lot of people wonder how this happened, why Minnesota got taken advantage of. And maybe we can jump to that Ilhan Omar clip, because Ilhan Omar makes a point I agree with.
Any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, you know, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
I find myself agreeing with Ilhan Omar, and it made me feel kind of weird and strange and all the,
Did you take a shower?
Yeah. Huh? I need a shower. Like, you know, it was like the movie Silkwood. I'm like, oh. Here's what I agree with Ilhan Omar. Minnesota nice exists. Minnesota nice is a thing. We are a good, a kind, a trustworthy people. We generally believe that like people do the right things. That's kind of our heritage. That's part of it. We're straying from that, especially in our big cities. But like where I grew up, like you didn't lock your front door, any of those things. In fancy people terms, they call that a high trust society. A high trust society means you don't need to have guardrails set up, because what kind of evil monster is going to abuse a program that feeds kids? What kind of horrific monster is going to steal money from autistic kids? Like, to most Minnesotans, like, even if they think like there's kind of this like even honor among thieves among like criminal Minnesotans, like, okay, it's one thing if I steal something, but oh my God, only the worst of the worst steals from autistic kids. We imported the Somali immigrants that need those guardrails. They need to be told, not only do you not steal, but stealing from autistic kids and stealing from the feeding food to kids programs is like one of the worst types of evil that you could ever have. And we've had cases in Minnesota where they have refused to prosecute Somali folks for things like rape, because they said, oh, we should find the one. There was a letter they wrote that said, well, they haven't adopted to our culture and they're having assimilation issues, which is why they raped a 12-year-old. And I'm like, whoa. Like, you're telling me we're bringing people from a society that thinks rape's okay, having sex with a 12-year-old's okay, and raping a 12-year-old's okay. And we didn't like set up guardrails. We didn't tell them that's not okay. Like, I don't want anybody from a society that thinks those things are okay to come anywhere. I don't want them here in a guest visa. I don't want them at Disney World, much less living in my neighborhood. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I refuse to be painted as the bad guy that, Jason, like you referenced here, the high trust society. We have a Nordic heritage in Minnesota. Read into that white, if you will. That's all I want, and I will not accept being called a bad guy any longer for wanting nice things. You're a moron if you want to invite people like this into the country. You want to have to lock your doors at night. You have to wonder if your kids are safe when they go out. I live in a really nice street. I still won't let my kids ride their bike on their own lot, probably, just because of the times we live in now. And no, I'm not a monster for wanting to return to a high trust society. And if that excludes most people from the rest of the world and it breaks down by skin color, I can live with that. But no, I am not a racist. I'm not a bad guy for pointing out obvious truths.
Yeah, and like I say, shout out to Ilhan Omar for acknowledging the fact that, yes, if you don't set up a guardrail for the Somali population that says, you know what, stealing lunches designed to feed kids in Minnesota and stealing money from the autistic kids program is bad. If you don't give them those guardrails, they're going to do it. Like, it's a huge admission from her. And to drive home the point you made at the beginning of the podcast, you notice how Jake Tapper doesn't go into any of the details. Jake Tapper doesn't expose the fraud in Minnesota. He's like, yeah, sure is a lot of fraud up there. And that's it. It's like so cowardly. It makes my blood boils.
Yeah. And the other tactic Ilhan Omar uses here, classic leftism, narcissism, feminine energy, however you want to describe it here. Notice it's not her fault. It's not even the perpetrator's fault. Do you know whose fault it is that Somalis committed fraud? You, the American citizen who set up one of the greatest governments in the history of the world, our faults included here. It's the government's fault for not establishing guardrails. It's not the fault of the people that abuse the system. It's the fault of the people. And actually, Jason, I agree with her as well with this. How dumb do you have to be as a Democrat politician to set up a system that you will get abused? I think the people that set up the programs need to go to prison along with the perpetrators, because at this point, they're children, so you have to be a child to think, if I set up a government program with no oversight, what could go wrong? Like, you're knowingly committing fraud at that point, just establishing that program. Send them all.
Yeah, ironically, do you know who was one of the people that set up the Feed My Starving Children?
Keith Ellison. Is that where you're going?
Keith Ellison and Ilhan Omar.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were launching it, they did all these press releases with the guy. And we should pull up that one and the autistic one. The program's funny. The original budget was like $3 million. And in 4 years, it was like $300 million that was going into this program. It was insane. And here's the other thing. And Donald Trump, I don't know if we have the clip, and we've talked about it on the show. Now that it's getting a little more mainstream, we can talk about it on some of the platforms. So Somalia, a lot of people couldn't point to it on a map, but they don't know like the state of affairs in Somalia. Somalia is worse than the worst third world country you've seen. Like, they don't even have birth certificates or a centralized identification system. So all these immigrants, so the talk about Ilhan Omar married her brother, there is rampant fraud that Donald Trump is vowing to eliminate for the Somalis coming into America. Because it's funny, the Somalis, their birth dates on their paper is always January 1st because they don't even know when their birth date is. Like, they don't keep records of who married who, of who was whose parent. There's little, if any, government to track any of that. So you're literally letting people in that you can't even vet, that you can't. It's the craziest thing in the world.
I just want to give a shout out too to CMC Murphy, Jason. CMC, if you've commented before, I apologize, but I'm recognizing your name for the first time. So thank you for hopping on the Rumble channel. Folks, if you're watching on Facebook, we do a Rumble only. We got a great Rumble community over there. You can go to rumble.com, search out the American Tribune. CMC Murphy, welcome aboard. And yes, American citizens are being screwed.
Todd, where do we go next?
Well, should we get to Donald Trump? So this is the title of the program, folks, and this is what I voted for. So we headline the show today, Somali fraud shifts national convo on immigration. People talk about the Overton window all the time about what is within bounds here. So you can only talk in this little box, certain things about immigration. Illegals, okay, we'll agree in the box that you can deport illegals. But what about the illegal immigrants? Donald Trump is shifting the whole conversation. How many of us on the right are just like, send them all home, prevent anyone from coming here in the future here, moratorium on all immigration, period, clean house, every Somali, legal, illegal, otherwise, needs to go home here. That's Donald Trump shifting the conversation here. I never imagined having a president. We got two clips of Trump here talking about how just awful Somalia is, how useless the Somali immigrants are, and how they all need to be sent home. This is the shift in conversations happening right now.
Contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
If Steve is still here, Steve, can you point out one thing that Donald Trump said was wrong?
You know, and it's funny. We have this suicidal empathy has been like one of the new terms floating around. And we have this suicidal empathy that has permeated American culture. And, you know, people take things out of context or try to spin narratives. And one of my favorite is people are quoting the thing on the Statue of Liberty. Send me, you're tired, you're hungry, and you're poor, yearning to be free. And then they go, see, we should let every single person into America. And it's like, wait a second. Like, the French wrote that on the Statue of Liberty. It's not in our founding document. But even if you think that's true, the second half of the sentence is yearning to be free. Let's hone in on that. Are the Somalis coming here, showing up at the door, going, okay, guys, my country sucked. Okay, sheer law, yeah, you're right. That was bad. We probably shouldn't do that. Okay, let's maybe learn a little bit about Christianity. You know, in our old country, we kind of killed them. And you know what? I want to get to work. Where's my job application? I want to make this country great. That's yearning to be free. The Somalis show up and go, oh, it's cold. Oh, this house you're putting me up in isn't nice enough. Oh, I need more welfare. Oh, what's my free stuff? How can I defraud this government system? In many cases, they won't even respect this country enough to learn the language. And for decades, pointing that out made you everyist, racist, whatever term you want to use. But now saying, like, if you're going to show up to America, you need to be willing to assimilate. You need to be willing to learn the language. You need to be looking to contribute. How can you make your life better? And you should be demanding the job application, not the welfare card. Like, that's yearning to be free. But somehow they've got this suicidal empathy thing, like, send us all your poor people. And this just in, America has no shortage of poor people. We are not sitting there going, you know what? We just don't have more we don't have enough third world inbred people that can't read, Todd. We need to bring in a few million inbred people from Somalia that have an IQ of 68. And we should probably talk about that too. Do you want to shed some light on that? Because that's been floating around.
I'm going to share this screen, Jason. It's a beautifully written post over on social media from a great follow, Jeremy Kaufman here. And again, I want to ask this question for Democrats. Why should Somalis be here? Jason, I just want an answer from a Democrat that's somewhat coherent. Like, I'll disagree with it, but maybe make it make sense. Why should they be here? Why do they deserve to be here? Why am I a bad person for wanting to have my own country? Can you imagine, like, if we all tried to go into Africa as let's say a Western nation, a European or American nation, brought our military, brought our ideas. I'm pretty sure they called that colonization. It was bad. But then why is it good when it's in reverse? Still waiting for that answer, Jason. But let's go through this as you talk about IQ. And so this is going on. Another Matt Walsh tweet about the average IQ in Somalia is 68. I haven't fact-checked that. We'll just go with that. I believe it. So he writes, it is not intuitive to understand just what it means for Somalia to have an average IQ of 68. With an IQ of 68 or below, the average Somalian, which is over half the country, would be considered too disabled in America to be eligible for the death penalty. At this level, someone will struggle to understand the cause and effect of basic things. Even filling out forms will be hard. Well, I've seen a lot of that from the Somali community. And at one standard deviation up from 68, you have an IQ of 83. Around 1 in 6 Somalians are intelligent enough to be a below average janitor. This is the level of intelligence of poor urban areas in America. At 2 standard deviations, we're at 98, or roughly average intelligence in America. Around 2% of Somalians will be as intelligent as your average high school classmate and could be good clerical workers or cooks. I'll just finish up one more here. At 3 standard deviations, we're at 113. This is approaching the territory where useful, creative, and STEM work can be done. This is about 1 in 1,000 Somalis. I'm just going to skip down to here. I laughed out loud when I read this. At 5 standard deviations, we're at 143. Gifted and potentially genius territory. These are the people who can invent, create, contribute at the highest level. There are approximately 5 of them in the entire country of Somalia.
The population of Somalia is 17 million. And
again,
where this comes from, they did IQ studies and they did genealogical studies in Somalia. And just so we're safe with the fact checkers on the Facebook and the YouTube, these numbers are just approximate and they haven't, they're unconfirmed. The only people who have ever studied the IQ in Somalia has determined that the average IQ from inbreeding and from malnutrition is 68. They've determined between 40 and 60% of Somalia's were the product of cousin marriages, is what they call it, which is first or second level cousins or closer. That's culturally acceptable in Somalia, as is Sharia law. To put in perspective, in Somalia, a population of 17 million, there are less than 1,000 Christians. They kill Christians in Somalia. They run them off. They don't like them. It was rated as the second worst nation in the world for Christians, behind North Korea. Put that in perspective. And so this is not the target demographic that we need to look at and go, hey, let's bring these guys over here. And like, if you ever saw, what was that movie with the I'm the Captain Now?
Yeah, I never saw that either, actually, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you've seen the meme. We've all seen the meme of the Somali guy with the big head, and I'm the captain now. If you live around a lot of Somalians, they look like that. And when you think, like, this is giving me, like, backwoods Kentucky vibes, like, it is, because it is.
Yeah, and honestly, what's the limiting principle? So again, what obligation do we have? And I'm not making fun of them for their low IQ. Jason isn't either here. It's not that I pity them. I feel bad that there are people that live with that condition here that have to make it through life with an IQ of 68 or lower. Awful predicament to be in. But it is not my job to care anymore, Jason, because there is no limiting principle on the left to say, well, let's take all the Somalis with the low IQs. Heck, well, we did that. Let's bring in all the Ethiopians now. Let's bring in all the Middle Easterns. Let's bring the rest of the sub-Saharan continent here. There's no limiting principle, because if you accept the premise that we need to rescue some Somalis, why can't we rescue everyone from the Congo during wartime and famine? And so, no, it is not my job as an American to concern myself with the affairs of the rest of the world anymore, because I'm not responsible for 8 billion people on the planet. And again, this should not be controversial. As an America first, I believe in putting Americans first. We have enough need in this country, enough help that could be offered the right way without fraud. I'm fine helping with a social safety net here, but not for the rest of the world. So before you go and call me an ist, before you call me anti-Somali, before you say I'm making fun of people for low IQ, I'm simply saying, let them figure it out. Let me figure this out. That's it.
Yeah, and even just the argument, because no Somali gets off the boat or plane or ship and is like, let me raise the American flag. Where is my learn to speak English book? You know, tell me about Christianity. You know, that's kind of the dominant religion. This doesn't happen. And you know, we have enough need in America that we don't need to continue to import people with needs, especially when they don't want to assimilate to our culture, to our society. And more importantly, they're not coming here looking to contribute. Like this population, we just ran through the numbers. It's not like that, that 86,000 Somalis in Minnesota are making my life better. Like they're not being a net contributor, paying my taxes, so I have less of a tax burden. They're making me pay more of a tax burden. So why on earth do I bring somebody in that hates us, that needs me to give them money to survive with little, if any, expected outcome where they're reciprocating that? It doesn't even make sense, Todd.
Can I get spicy, Jason?
Oh, let's do it.
So as we have focused on the negative net contribution of Somalis, the low IQ, the different culture, different religion, all the problems they bring with them, let me also say this. I wouldn't want them here if they were all high IQ geniuses, if they were all contributing to the country here, manufacturing, developing industries here. At the end of the day, America first means America first. If I become a nation of highly successful Somalis, that doesn't look like America anymore. We've just imported a different version of Somalia here. At the end of the day, I know we're arguing and quibbling about like low IQ, non-functioning, negative net contributions. These are all good reasons to send them home. I don't care if it were all the opposite. I would still want to send them home.
Right. Do we do the other Trump clip, Todd?
Let's fire off Trump number 2 here.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also saying
I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country.
Again, waiting to be told what was wrong about that.
He seems pretty accurate. Did we finish the clip?
And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with... go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. And without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now.
That's a fascinating comment, Jason. We've explored that many times on our podcast. Our Substack has it on. Folks, just for the brief version here, Trump is saying that Ilhan Omar would likely not be alive if it weren't for the United States. That's because her dad was a high-ranking military officer in the 1980s when the regime genocided countless Somalis, fellow Somalis, that they all bring here together, and it's kumbaya for every Somali. Her dad had a big role in killing people off, and when that regime got overthrown, so Ilhan Omar was a target for rightful vengeance, and that's how she claimed political persecution to get out of Somalia into England and then commit fraud to come to the United States. But Donald Trump is correct. She would not be here because her family has a history of just horrific atrocities.
Yeah, I would encourage you to go to the Substack, theamericantribune.news. I think, Todd, did you write that? Or no, it was Will.
I think Will did that one. I did the Minnesota flag one, though.
Yeah. Ilhan Omar, literally, her dad was one of like the generals in the government that was killing people that got overthrown by those rebels.
So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota.
That was probably the most salient point I mean, there's a lot of great points to make, and I love when Donald Trump has kind of reached like that. I just don't give a F level. Like, screw it. I don't want Somalis here. Why on earth would you bring people in that don't love America? And why would people want to come here that don't love America? It's always one of those disconnects. Like, oh, America's an awful, horrible, racist, evil place. Hey, can I come in? No. Like, why would we want you here? You don't like us. You don't like us. We don't like you. Like, go to Somalia. It should be fine.
Jason, I'm laughing over here. I am not going to put the comment up from Jose. Jose, you can find us at rumble.com. Search out the American Tribune. That's all I'll say.
Oh, my God. Jose does need to be on the Rumble. Oh, my God. Yeah, some of the chats. Oh, God.
And Jason, give it a year or two, and Donald Trump might be reciting what Jose wrote.
Right. Yeah, we love streaming on some of these platforms. We get pretty big audiences on Facebook, not so much on YouTube, but we stream on there. But we got to be a little careful with what we say, because so Jose, if we read your message, which we agree with, and we might read it on Rumble only, it's pretty good. Hey, and Bubba showed up.
Good morning, Bubba.
Giddy up. All right, Todd, where do we go next?
All right, I think if we can wrap up our conversation here, since we're on the focus of Minnesota, it's kind of a Minnesota show today. We still got to get into Walz a little bit. I might play that clip next, Jason, because that makes me laugh. We got to talk about the paid family leave. That's kind of a little near and dear to my heart here. My wife runs a small office. We have our own business, Jason. We understand how business works and the economy works. And Minnesota is basically saying, if you want to be an employee, that's fine. And if you want to take half a year off every year, that's fine too. And somehow that'll like make business better in the state of Minnesota. Like, you don't understand how insane we are in Minnesota here. But I like this, Jason. A little levity in the so Donald Trump does not care for Tim Walz, and Donald Trump doesn't care about being politically correct anymore. Drops the R word on him, and here's Tim Walz, a man that would call you a fascist and Gestapo, and that's okay. Never mind the fact that it leads to actual political violence here. But Tim Walz was offended that Donald Trump called him a retard, and he says that's going to make mean things happen here. So let's watch his fish mouth reaction.
This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned.
I'm going to share this.
I love that so much. Oh, Todd, you got something else to show?
Oh, I thought I was sharing it here.
Our crack IT staff.
Well, we got a technical difficulty here. Let me.
Elon
Musk shared this on the Twitter here.
Who is that?
Elon.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So there's a little post here. I know that we're a very sensitive culture now. Retarded is supposed to be out of bounds here. Jason, you grew up saying the R word. I grew up saying the R word. It wasn't derogatory. It was meant to call someone stupid that was being stupid here. So Elon Musk is over on his platform there, retweeting, the word retard is not meant for people with handicaps. It's meant for non-handicapped people who are stupid. And if you don't understand this, you are a retard.
I got to say, I love it. When we started doing the podcast a couple years ago, Todd's wife used to give us grief because I overused the word retard. And it would be like, how far is it into the show before Jason uses the word retard? And we've lived long enough, Todd, to see the word retarded just become a thing. And I grew up, remember, like using the word retard. And this was exactly it. It's like retarded refers to people that just don't understand how basic things work. It's funny. Oh my God. They're getting spicy over on the Rumble. Oh, Mark, we got Chris. We got to get Jose over there. Jose, go to rumble.com. Look for the American Tribune. That's our company name. Freedom for the Press podcast. You're going to have fun with those guys over there.
You know, Michael says, great conversation today. Yeah, Jason, this is not only a great conversation, it's an important conversation. Important because we need to deal with the hundreds of thousands of Somalis in the United States, and then add on to that all the other tens of millions of immigrants here that are basically contributing as much as the Somalis are. Important to flesh this out, and important to shift the goalpost from deport the violent, illegal, drug-running criminals to deport all of them. The fact that we are having this conversation, people are comfortable listening to this conversation, gives me a little bit of hope that we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and it was funny. I remember because I do the Wayne Dupree podcast with him, and we were talking about deportation. I'm like, everybody here illegally should go home. Like, that should be the starting point. Like, I understand Trump saying, like, we're going to start with the bad people, the criminals, gang members. They all need to go home. And the reason is you just don't have a country if you don't enforce your borders, if you don't bring in people that love the country, people that want to be here. And Donald Trump, as this continues evolving, is just evolving more and more into that, where he's like, yeah. Now here's the difficult thing. Many of those Somalis are citizens. Like, a huge percentage of them came in under Barack Obama. They found a way to become citizens, or it's kids now coming of age that were born because they've been here since the 90s. And they're talking about denaturalizing citizens, which I'm a fan of. And what that means is they look back and they say, okay, you lied on your citizenship application, and so we're going to revoke your citizenship. I'll give you an example. When you come into America, and I wish we had Beck on here. She was a Canadian immigrant. You actually have to, while you can still maintain dual citizenship, you have to pledge that you are going to give up your allegiance to your former nation and have your allegiance being solely to the United States. Theoretically, a simple way to think about this, if America and Somalia found themselves in a conflict, whose side would you fight on? And you had to go serve in the military. Which side would you be on? And if it's not America, then you shouldn't become a citizen, because ultimately that's kind of where the extrapolation is. So I don't know if he'll be able to do it. I don't know if he'll find a legal way to get it done. But God, the fact we're just talking about it gives me hope.
Yeah. Side note, Jason, when it comes to the Olympics and I watch these American citizens compete for another nation, I think that should be automatic grounds for revocation of your citizenship. You're going to take advantage of living in our country, but then you're going to go compete for somebody else. Same thing. You're out of here. You like it so much to represent them, wave their flag. See you later.
And it's funny, too, because Todd and I will talk about it. When I see a congressman simping for Israel, I have exactly the same emotional reaction.
Yep.
Like, hey, love Israel, big fan. If you feel that strongly, denounce your citizenship, go live there. Completely okay with that.
Yeah.
Won't feel bad about it. We'll wish you well. And it's kind of like the Somalis. I replied to a Peggy Flanagan tweet, and I'm like, Peggy, they don't like us. We don't like them. Like, why don't they just go home? They think Somalia is great. And it was funny. Trump mentioned about the money. So 10% of the country of Somali's GDP is from American foreign aid. 10% of this country. And if you add on the remittances that are sent, so of that 500 million Somalia generates, much of that money is sent back to Somalia. It's not even invested in America.
Yeah. Jason, we're wrapping up on an hour here. You and I have kind of fleshed out the Somali situation in Minnesota, and I'm left wondering, what is there to disagree on at this point even? Who wants them here? What are they doing here? Why are we bad for wanting America to look like America? Again, we don't get a lot of the Democrat trolls over in the Rumble, very few on Facebook, but maybe our audience will have these enlightening conversations over the holidays as Christmas brings family together. And just ask them, are you aware of what's going on with the Somali population? And just pick out Minnesota, for example, and then say, why? Why should any of this have to happen? And then let us know how that conversation goes when we return after the break.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap up on the Facebook, the YouTube, and get ready to transition over to Rumble?
Do you want me to kick off? We have this clip in the library. Do you want to play it really fast? I think this is the strikers of the Microsoft and Amazon folks in Washington, and they're like, that's okay. We'll make our own Amazon because we're communists and we can do that.
Oh, my God. That is a perfect clip. Guys, for those who might be new to the show, we are talking about the communist takeover in America, and we are talking about how idiotic this is. We're going to play a clip from Washington State. It is, I think, a state rep talking about Amazon, and we've covered the Starbucks strike that's going on out there. But we'll end with playing this. Then we'll play our outro, and then we'll see everybody in 60 seconds over on the Rumble side. Facebook, YouTube, we love you. If you had fun hanging out with us, we encourage you. Travel over to rumble.com. Look for the American Tribune. Just be ready we get a little spicy over there. And Facebook, YouTube, do me a favor. If you're still tuning in, like in the chat, send them home. Send them home. And we're going to play this clip and we'll catch the Rumble side, Rumble folks on the other side.
Jason, before we lose our Facebook audience, will you permit me to go on a very self-serving comment for a second?
Yes.
Folks, if you've enjoyed the show today and you want to support the program and you want to support folks over on Rumble like Paul Reese here, do us a favor. Go to splitrockcoffee.com, splitrockcoffee.com. Use promo code TOD10. Subscribe and save today to support a disabled veteran-owned coffee company, also rooted in Minnesota. We love the Minnesota connections on the show when it's positive. We got Paul in the chat. We got Todd and Jason here. We are both based out of Minnesota, paying our high state income taxes, welcoming all of Somalia into our homeland. But if you want to support a disabled veteran coffee-owned company right here in Minnesota, splitrockcoffee.com, promo code TOD10. I think I got all the buzzwords. And Jason, while we're at it, while we are just self-servingly promoting our own stuff here, if you've been watching the price of gold or silver and you're watching it go through the roof, it is not too late to get on the action. Check out the banner below, but go to handsoffmywealth.com. That is handsoffmywealth.com to get a free information kit to see how you can convert your retirement into precious metals. I don't have any of my precious metals here out in my studio shed. I know Jason usually has a sleeve of 1 ounce rounds here. Oh, you got them. Look at you. But we have been investing ourselves in. We're not just naming a program here. We have bought silver for years now. Handsoffmywealth.com. You can convert your IRA. You can buy actual physical silver and gold like we have done here. Silver is, I think, hitting $60. Gold is at an all-time high over $4,000. But it's not too late. I think as the economy goes, Jason, we're only going to see those prices go up. So that's it. That's my spiel. I feel terrible for promoting two products back to back. Should we play?
I don't feel terrible because they're great things. Shout out Split Rock Coffee too. And I haven't looked today. They're redoing their website, and and Paul's figuring out how to get his roaster funded for his dream roastery. It's going to be state of the art, but I haven't looked. But if you check it out and you're like, oh, this looks different, I saw the prototype of the website. So Split Rock Coffee is great. And the Hands Off My Wealth, for those who have been longtime viewers of the show, we talk about diversifying your investments. And one thing a couple of years ago, Hutch, who Paul does Cold War Radio with Hutch Bailey Jr., he was always talking about silver. And I kind of liked investing in gold. And he's like, silver's nice because you can invest in it. It's a good store of value and it's not as expensive. So you can actually do something with it. And so it was a number of years ago, I started buying like physical silver. And you could get a sleeve of these. They're 1 ounce of silver. There's 20 in here. And silver for a while was trading at like $30. And now for those who listen to us, went Hands Off My Wealth, got money in silver or gold, in the past like 6 months, this thing that I bought for $600 with 20 of them is now over $50 a coin. And there's 20 of them in there. So my $600 turned into over $1,000. And yeah, it's a great time to get in precious metals with all the uncertainty. But on that, play some clips. So we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Understand that there is a likelihood that businesses could decide, Microsoft just said they would, to move jobs out of the state. And are you concerned about that?
Right. So we have a situation with many major corporations, in particular Amazon and Microsoft, which I think one of which you had mentioned, have already been shedding jobs. They didn't need tax policy to be an impetus to invest in artificial intelligence. And the goal of that technology is to divest from human labor. We have seen many times in the state legislature the threat of jobs being relocated hung over the head of state lawmakers. Most famously, perhaps, in the example of Boeing, where they shook the state legislature down for the single largest corporate welfare package that was granted by a state government in the history of the republic, and then they moved the jobs anyway. I am much more concerned about working people who are going to be displaced, working people who might move from Washington because they can't afford childcare, because they can't afford the cost of medicine, because this is not a good place to try to start or raise a family or go to school. The perspective that you are speaking from, frankly, is very well represented in the state legislature by the major corporations that have spent millions over the years lobbying the state legislature, and they expect a return on investment. Those aren't the entities that I center in my policymaking. I believe that they're spoken for enough in Olympia.
Would you like them to leave?